Hey guys, welcome back to Jessin Reads Romance. I'm Jessin, and today is the start of a new reading vlog. So, I'm just coming off of 3 night shifts, and my bright idea, since I have, let's see, today is Thursday. I don't go back into work until Tuesday night, which is the longest stretch that I've had in between, shifts, and I want to use this to my advantage since this month is the Romance Readathon. It's all centered around like a historical theme, kind of like a Bridgerton theme, and everyone's on different teams. I'm on Team Wallflower. And the first week that we did, we had a poll and we also had a challenge. The challenge points, we did really well with that, but the poll actually took away a lot of our points, which I was very annoyed by. So this weekend I'm determined to read as many books as I can possibly read because I want to get as many points for Wallflowers as I can because I have an affinity for Wallflowers. I love historical romances that have Wallflowers in them as their main heroine. One of my favorites is Evie from Devil in Winter because she gets the bad boy Duke and I just love it. So my character, Miss Sophia Herrera, I'm determined that she needs to get a Duke as well by the end of this readathon. So anyway, I am going to read as many books as possible. I'm definitely leaning more towards my historicals on my TBR. I don't have to read just historicals. I am a mood reader, so I'm not going to commit to all of these books that I'm listing, but definitely the first book that I'm going to start off with is the Julianne Long that I've been dying to read. This series has just been so phenomenal, and I was very excited to see that How to Tame a Wild Rogue was already on Anyplay, and I wasn't expecting for it to be on Anyplay so soon, but I'm very glad that it was because it recently released, and I've listened to the rest of the books on audio as well, so I'm gonna dive into that one today. I also noticed, or rather I searched to see what other books on my TBR would be on Anyplay, and I was very excited because I don't want to mess these books up. They're really in great condition and I love them. So this is The Angel and the Highlander by Donna Fletcher. So this one is also on Anyplay, so I will most likely be listening to this one on audio even if I don't listen to it this weekend. And also To Love a Dark Lord by Anne Stewart, which is pretty much the book that I really want to make sure that I read out of all like the older historical romances that I have in my TBR, mostly because the cover is beautiful. If you haven't seen my August TBR video, this cover is freaking gorgeous and I'm obsessed with it. So yeah, that's pretty much the main reason why I want to read this weekend is because I love the cover and I just want to see if the interior matches the exterior because it's beautiful. Okay, so I am going to go drink a couple cups of coffee and attempt to stay up as long as I can to try to get myself on a little bit of a more normal schedule, and if I do fall asleep, I'm going to set an alarm so that I don't like sleep all day. So we'll see how that goes. The last time that I tried to stay up after a shift and like read, if I had an activity to do, I could probably stay up. But like sitting down and reading, I think I lasted maybe 45 minutes and then I fell asleep and I actually had coffee in my hand, but I was so glad I had a pillow like propped up because I was also reading my Kindle, and I was so glad because I definitely fell asleep with the coffee in my hand. So we'll see how it goes today. Maybe since it's an audiobook, I'll be a little bit more, I don't know. We'll see. I have high hopes, but they might be dashed. But either way, I'm still going to be reading a book today, whether it's this morning or it's in this afternoon. So I'll let you know how the Julianne Long goes the further I get into it. Time for another reading update. Now I will say, though I tried to stay up yesterday, I only lasted until about maybe 9:30 and then I started falling asleep as I was listening to the Julianne Long book. So once I started falling asleep, I was like, okay, fine, I'll go to bed. And I slept until 4:30 p.m. So that was a bust. That's not what I wanted to do. I would have been better off just going to sleep right away, and I probably would have slept until maybe 1 or 2, and I think that would have been better. So I think I'm done with trying to stay up after I work a night shift. I don't think it's working. I think it actually messes me up because, okay, so I was up around 4:30 and I realized I had to like cook dinner, I had to do all kind of stuff, which is perfect for listening to an audiobook. It really was. But I didn't update you guys at all while I was listening to the Julianne Long, and I ended up by finishing it. So here's my review for How to Tame a Wild Rogue. I loved it. It definitely is not a book that you can pick up in the middle of a series, just because I feel like the characters from books 1 and 2 play a big role in this one especially, but I think it works really well because Julianne Long, she has a real knack for including her side characters just enough, and especially ones that are well beloved. They've already had their story, they've had their HEA, and you get to see them. In this book in particular, both of the heroines from book 1 and book 2, they're kind of going through a rough patch with their husbands, and I really enjoyed seeing that struggle on the sidelines of our actual focal romance. It was really nice because I've already been invested in these characters, and I like to see if it added a bit of realness to the relationship, that everything wasn't just like hunky-dory. They had both only been married for like a year, and the whole situation with the hero, Lorcan, played into that, those marital kind of like troubles. So I really love the first meeting between our hero and heroine. Lorcan is a privateer right now, so basically they're contracted by the crown to legally pirate in the name of the crown, but before that he was a smuggler, and he's pretty well known. He has a lot of connections. They actually call him his lordship in London because of his ties to like the underworld, how he was, you know, a smuggler, but he gave jobs to a lot of people, and so they keep a secret and stuff like that. But anyway, he's respectable now, and he's just come back from a long time at sea, and it's very dark and stormy, but he comes across this woman who's basically climbing out of a window on a sheet, and he comes to her aid. This is Lady Daphne Worth, and she's escaping because she took a position as, I can't remember if it was a governess, it really isn't important, but she took a position, even though that she's the daughter of an earl, she took a position to be paid, and she's escaping the advances of this man who thought that he was entitled to more from her. So Lorcan helps her down, has to catch her, helps her down, and she doesn't know him. She thanks him, and she's like, okay, just show me the direction to this place, and he sends her there. He thinks that she's going to a brothel because the Grand Palace in the Thames, which is now an inn, it used to be a brothel, so he thinks that she is like a doxy, like looking for, you know, a brothel to sell her wares and have a place to stay for the night. He ends up by following her and rescuing her for somebody who is going to take her money, and escorts her to the inn. And this is really humorous. Again, you have to read the whole series because there's side characters like Dot. She's a lady's maid. She was the lady's maid to the heroine from the book 1, Delilah, and she's a little bit simple, but she loves to answer the door to the inn. Like, that's her job. And now they have a new footman, so she and Dot and Mr. Pike, they're kind of like competing on who gets to answer this door. So it's like a lot of humor, but you have to be involved in the story already to find it humorous, because otherwise you'd be like, well, what are they doing? So anyway, I found great humor in Dot versus Mr. Pike. That whole situation that played out in this book, that was really humorous to me. And when they get there, there's only one room left. It's a suite of rooms, so there's actually 2 bedrooms in the whole suite, but Dorothy doesn't have any money. And then she recognizes Delilah. Delilah is one of the owners. Delilah and Angelica own this inn, and they moved in the same circles. They were around, they lived in the same like area in the countryside, and Dorothy was actually Delilah's social better, and she was kind of like rumored to be engaged to another earl. And so she's like, oh, Dorothy, what are you doing here? And they're assuming that Lorcan is her husband, okay? And he looks piratical. He has like a ruby and gold stud in his ear. He has like long hair. He has a scar that's coming like from his eye down to his chin. He's bearded and doesn't look like anybody that Dorothy would be with, but they have to pretend because Dorothy doesn't have any money, and this is a very awkward situation. She wasn't expecting to run into somebody that she knew, so it forces them to be in a fake relationship so they can share this room, because again, it's very dark, stormy. It's supposed to be storming for like the whole week. So I like the way that the forced proximity situation comes about. I feel Dorothy's embarrassment and her not wanting to basically tell Delilah that courtship fell apart because the person who she was in love with, the Earl, ended up by falling in love with his younger brother's governess and marrying her. So it was embarrassing for her. And also, her father has gambled away a lot of their money. He's severely in debt, and that's why she took a position. And her father doesn't care enough to do anything about the money situation, and he just kind of expects Dorothy to handle it because she's been handling so much since the death of her mother. I think she was around maybe 12 when her mother died, and she basically took over running the household at a young age, which is something that Delilah mentions. Like, I've always looked up to you, and if you can do it as a child, like I knew that I could create my own inn and I could run it, so you were an inspiration to that. And Dorothy is just like sitting here feeling so terribly because she feels like she's fallen so low and her life is just not going the way that she's expected it to go when she's 30 already. So that's the background of our characters. And also Lorcan, who I mentioned was a smuggler and now is a privateer, he knew Captain Hardy, who is Delilah's husband. Captain Hardy and Lorcan also grew up together. The difference was Captain Hardy entered the military and he is very rigid when it comes to right and wrong. He played a huge role in busting up a smuggling ring in the very first book. So it's like part of his character, like wrong is wrong. If you do wrong, you go to jail. And he knows that Lorcan was rumored to be in a smuggling ring. He's like, I know for a fact that he was, but I couldn't catch him. I don't have any proof for it. So whenever he sees Lorcan, he does not want Delilah to let them stay. He's like, nope, he's a smuggler. He does not deserve to be here. But Delilah and Angelica, which starts their kind of like marital, like rocky path right here, insist that it's their in and they've never been involved in the decision for who stays and who cannot stay. It's always been Delilah and Angelica's decision because they are the people who own the inn, who ran the inn, who built it up from nothing. And their husbands have always respected that. Lucian, who is Angelica's husband, is a little jealous because Angelica lets it slip. I say Angelique. She lets it slip that Lorcan is fine. And he is. And so Lucian's a little bit jealous. So those are the two situations. They tell both of their husbands it's not your decision, and they let Dorothy and Lorcan stay, and so they have to pretend to be a married couple. And I think this story works so well because they're such like from different sides of the track. Their opposites attract as well. And Lorcan kind of calls Dorothy out once he figures out like what's going on, what's her situation, that her father's an earl and now they're in reduced circumstances. Her brothers are off on the continent in Paris staying with friends. They don't even know what's happening. And he's like, why don't you send for them to help? And she's like, oh, they don't need to worry about that. And Lorcan's just like, well, why do you have to worry about your father's business? And he let you take a job instead of doing something it's himself. Like your brothers, would they want you to work a job? And she just doesn't want anybody to worry about her, and he kind of calls her out for that, and she's upset by it. She says some things back that get him in a mood about like his background and how he has nobody and stuff. But them pretending to be married and also the storm forcing Lorcan to stay in the same place for a long time actually makes Lorcan appreciate what he once thought he never wanted to have, which was a home and a wife and children. He's admiring the relationship between Hardy and Delilah and Lucian and Angelique, gosh, I don't know why I keep calling her Angelique. He's admiring their relationship. He's having fun with, the other residents of the inn. Delacourt is also another side character who he's just like comedic relief, but I really like his character. He's really funny. Lorcan ends up by spending the night with Delacourt because Dorothy kicks him out one night, and that's a funny moment. And so he's forced to like admire this domestic bliss that he never wanted to have, and he kind of likes having it with Dorothy. Dorothy does have an offer from another aristocrat who is twice widowed. He is older than her father by a little bit, and he's looking for his third wife, and he thinks that Dorothy would make a great third wife because he has some young children that he needs a mother for, and she's considering that offer, but she's also falling for Lorcan. She knows that his heart is at the sea, so she doesn't want to ask him to stay. And I think that what makes the ending to this book so great, what his grand gesture is, just elevates this book to like top tier in the series, because not only does he make a grand gesture toward the end, but it's actually been in the works for a couple of weeks now, because he started putting into motion some of these things during her birthday, which nobody really remembered her birthday, and she thought he forgot about it, but he didn't. He brought her an orange, which she was really craving, and he was gone the whole day though. One of the things that he was doing while he was out was actually sending people to find her brothers to get them to come back home and deal with their dad, because it's their responsibility. They're supposed to inherit, or the older one, I forgot, is it Charles is supposed to inherit the earldom? Like, he needs to come deal with this. So when Dorothy is back home after the storm passes, after she and Lorcan have shared a couple nights together, and she's thinking about, accepting the proposal of this aristocrat, and then Lorcan decides he doesn't want to go out to sea anymore. He really likes staying home. He really wants to build a family with Dorothy, and he asks Captain Hardy to partner with him and Lucian. So I really like the resolution to that kind of angst between Hardy and Lorcan. Hardy coming to terms with, you know, people may do bad things just to survive. That doesn't mean that they're bad people, and he has to kind of get over, you know, being on his high horse about like right and wrong. Lorcan's beautiful proposal to Dorothy, like laying out, but with so much heart and feeling, like being like, this is what I have to my name, this is what I can bring to the table, I'll make you a great husband, we'll have amazing kids, and I'm entering into a partnership with Captain Hardy and Lucian, so I'll be respectable, I'll buy you a house in London, like you can have the life that you've always dreamed of, I'll settle your father's debts, but only this one time, and I will love you and I'll take care of you. And she's just so ecstatic, so happy. And then her brothers come and she's like, what is this? And Lorcan's just kind of like, this is the shit that your sister's been dealing with this whole time that you didn't know about, and y'all need to like grow up and come take care of your dad. And they're like, oh no, we totally will. Like, we have some money to our name. Like, we'll make sure that the next generations will be proud to carry our name. And so I really like that it ended well. It was only her dad that really is the disappointing person in the story, who he really didn't feel like he had any remorse for his actions or any real care for Dorothy, which was a little bit sad. But I mean, we do have this little epilogue where her former fiance is kind of having some marital troubles. He's not really satisfied with his wife anymore. He just sounds like somebody who is not really satisfied and just was ready to move on to the next thing. And he ends up by seeing Dorothy out and about, and he's like, oh my god, she's so beautiful, and like maybe she'd be interested in having an affair with me. And then Lorcan walks in with their little son, and he is an intimidating guy, okay? And so this guy like takes a step back and he's like, whoa, and then he sees that they're happy and he's like, oh shit, I missed that opportunity. And I really like that, to know, like, she didn't know for sure, but like her fiance regretted kind of being horrible to her. And I like that for her, even though she didn't care about him in the least. Like, she was so happy with Lorcan and her son, like she could care less about him. And I really liked seeing that though, because it's like she ended up so much better off without him, and that made me happy. So this book was amazing. It was 5 stars. I loved it. Now, today, when I woke up again late in the afternoon, so I stayed up yesterday, I slept until 4 p.m. yesterday. I was listening to the Julianne Long. I got tired around 11. My mistake was not taking my little sleep aid, a half of a pill, just to make sure that I go to sleep during the night. I thought, oh, I'm tired enough, and I laid in bed until maybe 1:30 or 2, so that messed up my schedule again. I slept until 12 today. I hate that, so we're learning from our mistakes, and I'm definitely taking a half of that sleep aid. It's called Sleep Aid from Costco. And it really works for me. It works so much better than melatonin. Melatonin doesn't touch me at all, but I don't want to take anything like NyQuil because it makes me super groggy. But anyway, the half a pill of Sleep Aid is like super just perfect. I love it, especially trying to transition from like days to nights when I have to take a nap during the day. It definitely helps me. Anyway, so that's my plan for tonight. But today I've been listening. I started the audiobook for To Love a Dark Lord, which is the Anne Stewart, which I'm, really loving the cover to. I can't say that the beginning is super interesting to me. I think part of it might be the audio. I don't want to read this book though, because the spine is perfect, and I really don't want to read it physically because I just don't want to damage the spine. So I'm going to suffer through the audiobook, even though I don't think it's great. The narrator has an American accent. She does try to do like Irish accents for the hero, and I believe the heroine's English as well. So it just is strange. She talks in her American accent when it's not dialogue, and I don't love it. And I just don't love the choices. She makes a lot of characters sound whiny. And there's just a lot going on that is not particularly interesting. And it's crazy because it's like this situation is nuts, but it's also interesting at the same time. So our heroine, Emma, she is caught in a predicament. She is an orphan and she's under the care of her uncle, but her uncle is awful and lustful and was like trying to make a pass at her and actually hit her. She ends up by taking an ornamental sword off the wall and stabbing him and killing him. And next door, I think they're at an inn or something, is James Caloran, and he goes over to see what the commotion is about and sees this murderous woman, and she's claiming, this is my uncle and he tried to hurt me and all that jazz, and I didn't mean to kill him, but whoops. He decides to take the blame for the murder because he knows that she stands no chance in a trial. Like, she would probably hang. So he decides to do his one good deed and says that he ends up by killing this man because he was attacking her, and then he stepped in to help, and so this man was trying to attack him. So boom, and basically charges are kind of like dropped. Then there was a situation, I don't know, he feels like a very jaded hero. I don't like him right now. Like, I just don't feel like there's anything about him that makes him an interesting character, and you really can't root for him because he's like, I don't know, he's trying to be so devil may care, I don't care about anything. He tells Emma to go to this place, and maybe since she's tall and very voluptuous, she would make like a good doxy. And he thinks that she already is, because he's like, she's probably lying about who she is. So he thinks that she's a whore, and so he's like, here's the address of a brothel, but it's not really a brothel, it's like someone that he knows, and she ends up by getting a position as a governess. Like, I'm telling you, this is like such a convoluted thing. Like, every interaction is so strange to me because the way that they're just talking to each other. He doesn't believe that this was really her uncle, and she's claiming, yes, this is my real uncle, and I'm not a doxy, and he just like doesn't believe her, and then he's just lying to her. It's just so weird. So then gets even more crazy. So she takes this position as this governess, but there's two older men who live in the house still, and she's taking care of their younger brothers. She comes into a situation where she thinks she killed one of the older sons because they are also just like horrible and just try to take advantage of all the servants. And so one of the sons, the heir to whatever title that he's gonna inherit, he tries to come on to her, and she cautious him over the head with like a fire poker. She thinks he killed him. She's like, wow, I'm twice a murderess, and what am I gonna do? They're just gonna come for me. And then Kaloran ends up by showing up to this house because of some sort of connection. And honestly, again, convoluted. Why is he even at this house? Can't really tell you because it's so weird. And I'll get to some more side characters, which again, I don't understand the purpose of these side characters. They're so boring, and I hate the fact that we're even spending time with them because they make this plot just so much more confusing. So anyway, he basically comes to her rescue again, helps her escape out the back door, and tells his cousin Nathaniel to bring her to my house. Speaking of side characters, we have Nathaniel. Nathaniel's like a younger cousin, and I don't even know why Kaloran's supposed to be responsible for him because honestly, I was tuning out quite a bit to the story because I was just kind of like, nothing's happening. And then all of a sudden, every once in a while, Emma tries to kill a man and then something happens. So it's a weird mix of there's nothing happening, but then there's too much happening. It's such a strange way to describe this book, but that's the only way I know how. So Nathaniel is with Kaloran. Nathaniel is like young and impressionable, and he doesn't like the way that Kaloran treats women, and he like fell in love with somebody in his hometown, but then he sees Barbara, who Kaloran calls Barb. Lady Barbara is after Kaloran. And then Nathaniel thinks Barbara's beautiful and doesn't understand why Kaloran is being so mean to Barbara, but Kaloran's just like, I am not interested in Barbara. I think he's already been with her before, and he's just like so tired, but like she keeps showing up to his house every day. And then she's the one that mentions, I guess she's friends with the lady who is employing Emma, that, oh, that redheaded governess. And Kaloran's like, oh, redheaded governess? Like, I know her. Let's go see her. And it's just so strange, and like Barbara's like jealous, and then she just wants Kaloran to sleep with her, but Kaloran wants to sleep with Emma, kind of, sort of, like not really, but like she's there, and he's like, might as well. And he like attempts to like sleep with her, but then Nathaniel catches him, and Nathaniel's like, stop doing that. It's just so weird, guys. Like, I don't know. I don't find any of these characters likable, which is such a shame because this cover is so beautiful, and I'm just like, I wanted the inside to match the outside, but I'm struggling with audio. I don't know how far into the book I am, but I can't be very far. Let's see. I'll crack it open a little bit just to see where I'm at. Okay, so I'm not very far. I'm on, just got to chapter 5, page 88, so I've only read this much. I don't know, maybe it'll get better. The audiobook I don't recommend. I don't want to spend money on the ebook because what if I end up by hating it and then I just wasted money when I could have listened to it for free even though the audiobook's not that good. So that's my dilemma right now. Yeah, so I'll let you know once I get further into this one today if I end up by liking it a little bit better, if the characters turn out to be a little bit more likable. But I think the heroine just being kind of like dumb, like, oh no, I've killed somebody and like I'm a bad person, and then she kills somebody, thinks she kills somebody again, and it's just like, oh no, why are so many men just like after me? It's because she's beautiful, even though Lady Barbara is just kind of like, she's too tall, she's too big. But she's apparently beautiful and very desirable to men because everyone's falling in love with her. And I just don't like heroines who like all men are after. It's just very boring, you know, very boring for like her to be like, I don't understand why men are interested in me. And then like all the men in the story are interested in her and she's just like, what? Like, I don't like that. It's like a Bella Swan type of thing, which I'm not dogging Twilight because I like Twilight. Just want to make that clear. But yeah, Bella Swan's not the greatest heroine, but I don't care. I still like it. Anyway, don't know how that came into the conversation. So the next book that I want to read, I'm sorry, I'm already like thinking about the next book. I'm trying to be prolific this weekend though. I think the next book I want to try out is The Angel and the Highlander, but if I don't end up by liking the audiobook, which is on Anyplay, then I might switch to something that I can actually read on KU, which I think the Teresa Medeiros, The Devil Wears Plaid, might be an option for that one. So yeah. Anyway, those are my plans for today. I will update you if something changes with To Love a Dark Lord, or if I just power through it just to get it over with. Because I'm still going to read it. I'm still going to see it through. I'm determined to read more books on this bookshelf right there. Okay, so I have a reading update for To Love a Dark Lord. It's making a little bit more sense now, but it doesn't make the plot any less convoluted and just bonkers, just a little bonkers. So yeah, let's jump into it. So he saves her like 3 times. And then when Emma is at Lord Caloran's house, he deliberately wants to start the rumor that she is his sister. But then he tells her, when people claim that you're my sister, make sure you heartily deny it. And I'm just like, what is the end game for this? What is going on? Oh, and I forgot to say, apparently Emma's, I guess it would be her cousin, right? Her cousin, who is her uncle that she killed, daughter. Apparently the whole plot about like Emma being under the guardianship with the uncle was that she has a really like large dowry and they want her money. So now that the plan was for the uncle to kill her so that they could have the dowry. And so now the daughter is set on a revenge plot against Emma. She wants to find her so that she can kill her and she can have the money. So they have that side plot. Emma has nowhere to go and she knows that the cousin wouldn't welcome her back, but she has no idea that the cousin really wants a dowry. And so she doesn't know where to go, so she has to stay with Lord Caloran. She tried to escape once and then he brought her back because it was like a blizzard when she tried to escape. I fear for her intelligence because she tried to escape in a blizzard, but whatever. And then we have this whole thing where Lord Caloran's all like, I have no interest in your body, but internally he's like, I'm lying, I do, she's voluptuous, I want her. And then the whole rumor about the sister thing. And we do know that he has a tragic past. Like the reason why he's so jaded and he like turned his emotions off is something happened with his parents, where both of his parents died in Ireland because he's an Irish lord. And he buried them, and along with them, he buried his emotions and his feelings. He turned it all off, right? And then apparently he came to England and he took a fancy to a girl, and she was the daughter of like, or the sister of an earl. And that's where his arch enemy comes into play, Jasper. But apparently the brother took offense that some nobody Irish lord would try to court his sister. And so there's bad blood with that situation. And then I just found out that it goes beyond that. So apparently he was courting the sister. Our hero was courting the sister of the Jasper, that lord. He's telling this to Emma that the rumor is that she died in childbirth, but that would be crazy since she wasn't married to the English lord that she was betrothed to. So when Emma asked James, was it your baby that she died in childbirth with and not her fiance? And he eventually tells her that no, it wasn't my baby. It was her brother's. And I'm like, what? Crazy. So James brings Emma to a ball just so that he can flaunt her in front of Jasper, because apparently Jasper has a thing for redheads. The sister was a redhead. So this Jasper person is fucking evil and creepy. He apparently was abusing his sister from a young age, and he had lost interest when she got older, but as soon as our hero James took an interest in her, like, he didn't want anyone else to have her, especially not somebody who was like not worthy of her. And I don't know the whole story of like how it all happened, but apparently James wasn't even in love with this girl, or at least he claims he wasn't. So I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite sure what's going on still, but like it's soap opera-y, you know? It's soap opera-y, and I'm just like, what is going on? There's this evil, horrible human that he wants revenge on, and he's flaunting Emma on purpose because she's basically a trap. Like, he wants her to go after Emma. He already tried to assault her, and James steps in and like roughs him up a bit and just like, don't ever touch her again. But like, he's doing it on purpose because he wants to torture this guy Jasper and then eventually kill him. So this is the whole plan. And then at this point, Emma is saying that she's in love with him. She's like, I both loathe him and love him. But like, I don't believe it. There has been nothing that he has done to endear him to me, let alone like, what has he done for you, Emma? Like, he shelters you, but he also tells her, hey, I'm using you for something. And it's just weird. Like, I just don't find the romance to be compelling. I just find this to be like a bonkers plot, you know? Like, that's the thing that's pulling me forward, is just being like, what else is going to be uncovered? And not to mention the side plot of Lady Barbara and Nathaniel, the younger cousin, who's handsome and noble and nice, and he's actually in love with Barbara, who apparently, I don't even know if she's actually a real lady or if she's really a whore, but apparently they're going to end up together, Nathaniel and Barbara. But Barbara's like, she's going after James, our hero, because she doesn't feel like she's worthy of Nathaniel. Wow. So yeah, that's where I'm at. I am on chapter, I think 9. Let's see, how far is that into the book? I'm like, please be further along. Or am I on 9 or am I on 10? Okay, so here's 10. So not quite halfway, but almost. So that's exciting. I was hoping that I could finish it tonight, but also AnyPlay only goes up to 2 times speed, and this narrator in particular talks slower than normal, and I feel like, though I listened to Julianne Long on 2 times speed and I found that to be a really comfortable pace, like this one I wish I could do 2.5 because I just want it to go faster. But anyway, I'm gonna continue listening for about like 2 more hours. 2 more hours, and I'm gonna take a little sleeping pill tonight so that I can be fresh tomorrow. I have a couple errands that I need to run, and you go to Costco. I like desperately need to go to Costco, and I might go to Hobby Lobby because I've been in like fall spooky mood. It is hot as hell. We have been having heat advisory after heat advisory for almost 3 weeks straight. The temperature's been in the hundreds, and the heat index has been like 115. It's just been miserable, but I still want to feel like it's fall in here. And I saw a really cute little like DIY project for like a bubbling cauldron, and I want to go to Hobby Lobby to see if I can find all of the pieces to make that. And if I can't find those in particular, I'm sure I can find something at Hobby Lobby. It's just like it's the worst place for me to want to go shop because I can buy like everything. But I definitely want to decorate for fall, so I think maybe I'll do that tomorrow. I do have some fall decorations, but I don't have anything specifically like Halloween. But yeah, I also was eyeing some Halloween themed shirts on Etsy, so I might also make that purchase. But I'm just ready for fall. I'm sick of this hot weather. I'm not a hot weather girl. I'm not a summer girl. I'm a fall girl, and I cannot wait to wear fall colors and cozy sweatshirts. Like, that's what I want. I want to be cozy. That's what I want. So anyway, that's my plan for tomorrow. We'll see how that goes. I'll keep you guys updated, and I probably won't update you again tonight. I'll just leave it for tomorrow. I've been up since 4 and it's currently noon. So yeah, anyway, it left me a lot of time to listen to audiobooks. I was able to finish To Love a Dark Lord this morning and also start The Angel and the Highlander. But first I'm going to talk about To Love a Dark Lord and what I thought about it in the end. My overall impressions of this book is that it just has a very soap opera-y plot, but it was very much lacking in the romance. I did not feel like these two truly like loved each other in the end. I just wasn't getting any of that intimacy. I didn't feel like they spent enough time together. And it was Emma was the first person to acknowledge any feelings, and I felt like how she went from outwardly professing, and even to the point where she acknowledged internally that she loved him, she still would outwardly say, I hate you all the time. And I think that that's definitely a pet peeve of mine, and I just think that it's not great writing. I definitely don't think it's something that just happened in this book. I notice it a lot in other books as well. If you repeat a phrase, or if a character repeats a phrase over and over again throughout the book, it just loses its power, because she continually says, I hate you, but then she does stuff that shows that she actually doesn't, then those words lose all meaning. And why are you even saying them? Like, they absolutely have lost their meaning. And I don't like that. I don't like when people just say something that's like shocking or just to get a rise out of somebody, and then they say it so much that I'm like, okay, I don't believe you anymore. It's very aggravating to me. So I feel like there was a ton of that on both parts of Emma and also the hero as well. He was just like that kind of classic closed off hero for really no reason, and he pushed her away like we would expect her to. She was in danger quite a few times. She was in danger of being assaulted quite a few times. She was assaulted. So it just wasn't the most original story, and I just felt nothing for these characters. Nothing for these characters. So unfortunately, the book that I was really excited about because it had a beautiful cover, I'm giving 2.5 stars. It just wasn't all that it was cracked up to be. I've read better books by Anne Stewart for sure. So yeah, unfortunately, this baby is just going to be decorative on the shelf, but not something that I recommend to people. Then I started the Donna Fletcher, Angel, and the Highlander, and this book has like a secret identity in it. So the heroine Alice, she was sent away from her father's estate. I don't know if they actually said why she was sent away. I just know that Alice felt kind of unloved by her father, and she was sent away to a nunnery. It's been a couple of years now, and now Lachlan Sinclair has been tasked by her father to go fetch her back because she's supposed to be engaged to be married. I think that's actually why she was sent away, is because she didn't want to marry the person that her father wanted her to marry. So now's the time for her to come back home. And when Lachlan gets to this convent, there are very beautiful women that answer the door, and that was a little bit of a irksome thing to read, Lachlan's first impression, because every one of these girls who are roaming around are beautiful, and he has to comment on their physical body like right away. Like, that's the first thing that he notices, is how beautiful they all are. Big, beautiful breasts, tiny, tiny waists, and luscious hips. Like, he comments on every single woman. I'm just like, Lachlan, way to make me just not root for you because this is like the first thing that you see, and he's already coaching himself like, they're nuns, stop looking at them in this way. And I'm just like, oh, oy vey, I hope that he's gonna be a better hero than this. Luckily, I do feel like the characters get a lot better. I'm not quite halfway done with this book yet, but I do think that some better character development starts happening once we get over his initial reaction to how beautiful these nuns are. And anyway, he's looking for the abbess, and they're like, oh, the abbess died. Oh, well, I'm looking for Alice. Sister Therese brings Lachlan to basically a graveyard, and like, here's where the abbess is. Like, there was a sickness and it swept through everybody, and like, Alice is dead. But what he doesn't know is that he's actually talking to Alice. Alice is Sister Therese, and she does not want to go back. She likes her freedom. And in fact, all the girls who were left were women who were picked up along the way back to the convent, and none of them had taken vows yet before the nuns actually got sick and died. So none of them are actually nuns. And they've been just living as nuns, helping the village around them. They've been very self-sufficient, and they like their freedom. They don't want to go back. They definitely don't want Lachlan to know that Therese is Alice. And there's also like a little subplot because Lachlan has a brother that he's searching for. He could be with some mercenaries who are kind of local. So he's kind of like, okay, we're going to just stay camped out here. You guys don't have any protection. There's like some clan wars going on close to here. So we're just going to sit right here for however long it takes for the church to send kind of like reinforcements to protect you, because they didn't know that there was hardly any people right here, which is what the girls wanted. Like, they don't want the church interference because then they're going to find out that they're not nuns, you know? So these men who are trying to do a good deed, trying to protect these women who they see as vulnerable, and they don't want to just like go back home and like do nothing, but they're actually kind of ruining their plans. And I really like all the girls. They have different personalities. One's a hunter. She knows the woods really well. She's a tracker, and she's the one who like hunts game for them. Another one's like a healer, and they all have like their roles that they have set up their own community. And also they have made deals with mercenaries in the past for them to like protect their land. In exchange, they'll like heal any of their wounded, and they'll like share, you know, produce and stuff that they grow in their gardens. So they've been pretty well off by themselves. Unfortunately, Sister Therese is kind of falling for Lachlan. They hang out a lot, and he does eventually find out that they're not nuns, but she does still keep the fact that she's Alice to herself. So there's this like one secret that she's still keeping to herself. But now the men know that none of them are nuns. And so now they're ecstatic because all these beautiful women are fair game. And they're kind of like trying to court them. So it's kind of like really cutesy for now. We'll see how Lachlan reacts once he finds out that this is Alice. I don't know if he's gonna feel like he's duty bound to actually bring her back home because her father does want her to marry somebody else, or if he's just gonna be like, no, I want her for myself. I don't know what his reaction is gonna be. I don't think it's gonna be terrible. I just think he may be torn duty versus like, I'm in love with her. So I don't know, but I'm definitely digging the chemistry between them much better than to Love a Dark Lord, because that book just had no chemistry between the characters. This book actually does, which is great. It's phenomenal. I'm so happy that they have chemistry. But I will let you guys know the further I get in. I'm pretty sure I'll be able to finish the audiobook for today. So hopefully I'll get you that update by this afternoon. So today turned out to be interesting. I ended up by taking a nap today because I didn't sleep at all last night. But it turned out well. I want to show you guys before I talk about The Angel and Highlander, because I just finished. It's about like 8:30 tonight. But I did want to show you guys because I'm pretty proud. I was feeling in like the fall mood, and I went to Hobby Lobby earlier this morning. I got some stuff to decorate my kitchen island centerpiece, and I wanted it to be like Halloween themed. So I'm going to show you guys what I came up with. So this is my centerpiece. I am pretty proud of it. I got like just a bunch of random knickknacks, and I really love this mushroom, but I'm thinking that, I don't know, you can't really tell it's a mushroom the way it's sitting. I want it to be a little bit higher, so I'm thinking about getting something to like lift it up a bit so that you could see it a little bit more, but I'll figure that out a little bit later. And then I kind of want to add something to the middle of the island to make it a little bit more Halloween-y, because my apartment's pretty like cool tones, and I feel like this is pretty warm. And I don't know, I just feel like there needs to be something underneath my little lazy Susan. So anyway, I had a fun time doing that, and now it's time to talk about The Angel and the Highlander. Okay, I decided to sit down for my review of The Angel and the Highlander because I feel like I talk too much with my hands, and I don't really like holding the camera like that. So anyway, we're gonna sit and talk about The Angel and the Highlander. I ended up by giving this book 3.5 stars. I did really like the chemistry, like I said before. But I do feel like the main conflict between Lachlan and Alice was that she wanted to remain independent. She had a lot of attributes that I guess you would attribute to like a lord of a clan, and she even said like that's what she hoped to be for her father, is she wished that she was born a boy because she felt like she could have run his clan very well. And the father even admits that to Lachlan like later on. So the main conflict is her wanting to do these independent things and Lachlan wanting to protect her. Though on the surface, I really like that message. Like, I really like that Alice is such a strong heroine. She's very, very capable later when she's at Lachlan's clan after they're married. She's talking to his older brothers who leads their clan. And she's making suggestions to where his sentries are, and like, these are areas that you need to protect because this is a vulnerable place. Like, she makes good suggestions and they actually take her word for it. Like, I like that she actually contributes in a very different way than like a traditional women's role, but I do feel like it was harped on a little bit too much. I felt like some of the scenes felt a little bit performative because they were brought up again and again and again, and it just felt like unnecessary to keep hammering this message home. Like, I wish there was a little bit more. So I did feel like the second half of the book dragged on a lot more after Lachlan found out that she was Alice, that Sister Therese was Alice. And one of the things that Alice lamented about Lachlan was that he didn't give her choices, and he just like dictated how things would be and expected her to follow. But she also did the same thing to him. She kind of did what Crystal calls like a white fang moment, where she sent him away for his own good and like told him, I don't love you, this was just a fun little, like, we've just been sleeping together, like, I don't love you, you need to leave, like, you and your warriors just need to go back home, like, I don't love you. And like, he insisted, he was like, tell me to my face, and she was like, like, I don't love you. I've never loved you. So like she did this on purpose to send him away because she didn't want to lose her independence, and she knew that she really loved him, so she was lying, and she never told him that she was Alice. So he's heartbroken and goes tell the news to Alice's father, and when Alice's father is describing Alice, he's like, wait a minute. That is Sister Therese. So tell me more about your daughter, because I think that she's been lying to me, okay? And even when he confronts her, he's not mad about it. He just like casually like walks up and like, did you miss me and stuff like that? And she's worried because she's pregnant and she doesn't want to tell him. So like she keeps all these secrets from him and just expects him to like roll with the punches. And she's making decisions on his behalf, expecting him to just be okay with it, expecting him to be fine with never knowing her true identity, expecting him to be fine with never knowing his son. Like the way that she was going, I don't think that she would have ever told him or sent word that she had his son. Like I really don't think that she would have, unless push came to shove and he came back. So it really just like grinds my gears when the woman's just so insistent that the man's taking away her choices, but she's doing the same thing. It's like, you got to look at yourself too. It's not just, it felt very performative. Like, I'm going to create an independent woman heroine and not let her see her own reflection in the mirror, that she's doing the same thing to him. And I don't like that. I like there to be balance, and I like flaws to be acknowledged. And I do feel like she had a flaw. She was independent a little bit to a fault. She also didn't know how to compromise, and I don't feel like we ever acknowledged it. It was always Lachlan having to bend to her, which is fine. And I think that he bore all of that with grace. He never really lashed out at her. A couple of times, like she claimed like, oh, you don't trust me, and like stormed off, but she was the one taking like drastic measures, and she like ran away with one of the mercenaries who came to come like rescue her. It wasn't really a rescue because he was like, your husband's gonna come for you, but at least now you have a choice. It's all about choices and stuff, and I get it. Like on the surface the message is good, but it's ham-fisted, and I didn't like that. I didn't like being beat over the head with that message. Like, I got it. I liked Alice for her independence, but she did get a little bit annoying because all she did was talk about how you don't want me to be who I am. And I'm just like, oh my God, this message is so blatant. Like, I get it, and I understand it, but you're being a little bit too much right here. You're being a little too much, and you're not allowing Alice to make concessions for Lachlan as well. Like, she was pretty horrible when she first came to his clan because they were married by proxy. Once he found out who she was, she was very mad about that. Like, oh, I didn't have a choice about who I would marry, and that's the whole reason why I was at the convent. And so she was really mad about that. So she was like kind of very rude to his family, and she was just being pointlessly stubborn to make a point that she just wasn't going to go along with what he wanted, and she just kind of annoyed me, honestly, at that point in the story. I really liked a lot of things about her, but more things frustrated me about her, and I just feel like like I said, the second half, or maybe like third of the book, dragged on a little bit because it was just the same story over and over again about how she wanted to do this thing, and Lachlan was like, maybe you shouldn't do that, and she was like, I'm going to do it anyway. And that was the same thing that she complained about, like Lachlan not taking her opinion into consideration and doing things without her, input, but she did the same thing to him. So I'm like, there needs to be a balance here, and I wasn't seeing it. So I liked it to a point. The writing was pretty good. The characters were, endearing and charming, and I liked them, but the story took a frustrating turn for me. And I've been very vocal in the past about, I just don't like when an author has a message to get across if they're being too blatant about it, and I feel like they're saying the same things over and over again. It gets a little bit annoying because it's either you think that I don't get the message, or I don't know, you have nothing else to say besides this one point, and you're just going to circle back to it again and again and again, and in an uninteresting way, in a way that is just kind of like, we've done this before, like I've already seen this, can we do something new? So anyway, I always talk about how that bothers me, and it doesn't change for this book, but I did like it a lot more than Tale of Dark Lord. So anyway, 3.5 stars. Really like it. So the next book on my list, I really like how I've been getting through this stack this weekend. I don't know if I'll get to Elf King's Lady, but the Tarnished Lady, I'm pretty sure that I can finish it tomorrow. Fingers crossed. I technically have all of Monday to read as well, but I do want to get the vlog out for Monday, so the goal is to finish the Tarnished Lady tomorrow. Here's the gorgeous cover. Really love this cover. There is an updated version of this cover, but I like this one, the original, a lot better. So I ended up by getting the ebook to read so I didn't mess up this copy, because as I've said before, I just don't want to mess up perfect copies. And I tend to be an unknowing spine breaker. I tend to stretch out my books. Any of the mass market paperbacks that I owned before I was a like quote unquote collector, you can see my spines are so damaged because I'm just like, I want to be comfortable while I read. I'm just gonna break these damn spines. Not intentionally, but like as I'm reading, I'm like, wait, I can't see these words and I'm breaking them. Anyway, so I don't want to do that to these. So I decided to get the ebook. Hopefully I'll like that because I did spend money on that. So yeah, I'm gonna start that tonight and I'll see how far I get. Hopefully, cross the fingers that I'll be able to sleep tonight because this is ridiculous. This is supposed to be like a great weekend where I was on a good sleep schedule, and I think that I tried too hard to be on a good sleep schedule, and now my body's like, F you. Oh well. All right, guys, last clip of this vlog. So I finished The Tarnished Lady. Today kind of got away from me. I meant to update you guys earlier today, but I did podcast with Juliet earlier this morning. We did 2 episodes, and then I went to my parents' house for dinner. So we're updating at the tail end of today. But The Tarnished Lady, so I started reading it last night to go to bed, and it really does have such a great beginning. I feel like it's very easily accessible. It is a kind of medieval romance. I think this is part of her Viking series, but she has like 2 separate Viking series, and they're kind of loosely connected, so I think all of them can really be read as a standalone. But this is the first historical romance that I've read by Sandra Hill. I have read one of her contemporaries, and it's like Hot Cajun or something like that, because I was just very curious to see how she would portray a Cajun hero, and it was interesting. Not quite accurate, but some fun things in there. Anyway, I digress. We're talking about historicals right now. So The Tarnished Lady, I like the setup for the story. We have our hero who has been away for like 2 years fighting in the name of the king. And this is medieval times. England's not even like one country really yet. And he is half Norman, half Saxon. He has a castle that was his grandfather's. It's kind of been falling into disrepair. He hasn't been there for the past 2 years, and he just got home from being away for 2 years, and this woman who has been writing him asking him for a favor and he's been ignoring enters the keep uninvited, and she looks kind of cronish, like an old crone, at least to our hero's eyes, Eric. So we come to find out later that Eric is actually, I think he is farsighted, and he didn't get a good look at her, and also the hall is not well ventilated, so it was very smoky that night. And so he just thinks that she looks cronish because of the way that she wears her hair slicked back under like a wimple, and he looks like she may be old and that she's wrinkled, but she's really frowning. So he has this impression, and she comes with a proposal of marriage. He's been married once before, and he's like, I don't want to repeat that again. And she comes with a dowry. She's like, this is what I can offer you: lands, money, and I'll give you this, this, this. And that all sounds kind of tempting, but what actually pushes him over the edge to accept this marriage proposal is the fact that she really needs a father for her son, who she had out of wedlock. But it's the father that actually interests Eric the most, because the man who fathered her son is basically his most hated rival. He hates Stephen, and as soon as she mentions his name, he's like, what? Who? Yes, I will marry you to get back at him. Like he wants to try to take your son. Like, I'll marry you and claim your son as mine so that he can't have his son. Like, yes, and anything to do to get in his way. And so there's this misunderstanding that she's old, and she comes to find out that that's what he makes comments, and she's like, does he think I'm old? Maybe this could work to my advantage, because I don't want to be in the marriage bed. Like, she found it very unpleasant the one time that she did have sex, and then her reputation was in tatters after that, and so she just doesn't want to do anything with men. She's been very successful by herself. She inherited her father's estate, and she's been handling that by herself like very well, and she also started keeping bees. That's been very lucrative for her. She's made candles and honey that is very in demand, so she has a lot of money and she knows how to run a household. She is absolutely appalled by the estate that Eric keeps because it just needs an overhaul. The servants aren't even cleaning, and that morning she ends up by staying that night because it's too late to travel back. And that morning she gets up and she starts ordering his servants around like very harshly, and it's just like really humorous. I think that Sandra Hill's really good at creating humorous situations. Now, I will say that a lot of the conflicts are very repetitive. She's very strong-willed, and he wants her to do as she's told, and so they're butting heads. And also there's lots of misunderstandings that are prolonged, I will say, because one of my least favorite ways to prolong a misunderstanding is when a character tries to explain themselves like, oh wait, that's not what you think. Just let me explain. And the other character's like, no, I have seen all I need to see. I don't need any explanation. It's my least favorite way to prolong a misunderstanding is when they're literally just rejecting the explanation. I'm just like, ugh. And it happens quite a lot, but I do think that it's kind of characteristic of older historical romances or older romances in general. So I wasn't too mad that there was like a bunch of times where these two clashed, but it was repetitive and I felt a little bored by the conflicts in the end. So the first half of the book I find to be the most interesting when she is, you know, hiding her identity that she's 25 and she's not an old crone. She is of childbearing age, and I like her keeping that to herself and him trying to get to know her and then realizing that she had such a bad experience with Steven that she's like afraid of men after. And I like them getting closer that way, but once they start having sex, I feel like, again, the conflicts just keep coming, and it's because he gives her an order and she like bristles because don't give me orders, I'm a grown woman, and then she disobeys them, but then she gets in trouble. And one of my least favorite combinations is a headstrong woman just trying to prove a point that she can make her own decisions and do whatever she wants, and then she gets in trouble for it. Like, I absolutely hate it, because just because you can do doesn't mean you should do, and maybe some of the rules that are in place are actually for your protection. So if you put yourself in danger, then you put other people in danger, because then they have to come rescue you. And I'm just like, was it worth it? Was it worth it just to exert your independence in this one moment where you could have just not? But whatever, that's just my opinion. So I liked it. I'm gonna give it 3.5 stars. It wasn't bad. I'll probably actually read more in this series. It was enjoyable for an older historical romance. I really do think that. So yeah, I think that this was a very successful vlog weekend. I'm very excited that I got through these books. I wasn't quite sure if I would get through as many as I did in the weekend, but I'm very, very happy that I did. I will be continuing to read mostly historicals this month, but I think that after having read a bunch this weekend, I do want to switch it up and maybe read a contemporary. There's a Corinne Michaels that I heard some good things about. Something Hearts, like Faded Hearts maybe, I'm not quite sure, but it's like a single dad nanny romance, which seems to be very popular, so that might be the next thing that I pick up. And then I'll get back to my historical TBR and see what book. I'll probably pick up the Teresa Medeiros. I really like her. That book is on KU, so I'll be able to read an ebook of it. So anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this vlog. Let me know if you did by giving it a big thumbs up, and if you're not already subscribed to my channel, make sure you subscribe to get notified on any future videos that I do. Thank you so much for watching, and remember, life's better with little HEA. Bye guys.